Well, I just came from an excellent, even amazing Speaking with Confidence class. And in this class today, students had to deliver their major persuasive speech, which is sort of like one of the biggest assignments in the course. And the reason why today was so awesome and exciting is students presented on topics that were rooted in their lived experience and the expertise that comes from lived experience. And they were so passionate and engaged and created just this sort of incredible learning space that centered them as experts. And that's something that I think is really important to me in all my teaching practices, is to recognize the expertise that students come into a classroom with. Something else that I always do in that class is I want students to recognize that at some point during the semester, they will be in a role where they are supporting other students as audience members. And they are also, at some point, always going to be someone who will need support. And so creating a culture of support that recognizes that we are going to take turns sort of being on stage, I think helps, because we are all going to have that role at some point, and that I think does alleviate anxiety. Another thing that I always try to do is to ensure that students have choice around how they are celebrated after delivering an awesome speech, and how they are supported in sort of arriving at in the front of a class. So something that some students feel really encouraged by is having everyone clap for them when they arrive to the front of the class, but other students, that makes them feel really anxious. So incorporating consent into even those practices, I think, is really important and does alleviate anxiety. Another thing that I think is really important is providing students the opportunity to recognize that feedback is subjective, and teaching students how to deliver positive, constructive feedback, but also recognize that feedback is something that they don't necessarily have to accept. And when students give feedback, they can receive it or they can choose not to. But learning how to deliver constructive, thoughtful feedback is something that we definitely center as a practice to alleviate anxiety in our classroom. And creating sort of a culture of support, I think, is really, really quite important. And supporting students and recognizing that everyone who is an audience member is ready to be entertained. Like, we know that about audiences. Audiences want to be entertained, and so we're starting from a good place.